Rumors had been spreading for weeks in Leningrad about a fallen city in the taiga, a place where trees lay flat in concentric rings and stones had been vitrified into a black, glassy crust. The year was 1927. The man sent to find out was Leonid A. Kulik, the Soviet mineralogist whose name would become synonymous with the Podkamenaya Tunguska explosion of 1908. Kulik's first expedition walked into a landscape that still smelled of burnt resin and old lightning. Eyewitnesses from Vonavara and nearby Evenki camps told him the same tale: a thunderhead in daylight, a shock that broke windows hundreds of kilometers away, and afterward, a silence that was not natural. Kulik mapped the flattened forest, collected splinters of vitrified wood, and pried up a shard from a patch of fused earth. It looked, at first, like a piece of silita. Under the microscope, its face was not random glass, but a lattice of regular grooves, micrometric etchings in a material that should have been molten and formless. Back in Leningrad, the shard attracted the attention of men at the Academy of Sciences. Vladimir Vernadsky saw immediately that it was anomalous. A young optical physicist noted faint rows of inclusions that diffracted light in oddly regular sequences. They were not alone. A German émigré engineer, Friedrich Halberstadt, a name whispered in Academy files, proposed a radical hypothesis. The glass was a memory matrix, a natural recorder that had been imprinted by a transient, high-energy field during the 1908 event. They built an instrument from parts scavenged from radio transmitters and cinema projectors, a resonant optical reverberator intended to coax patterns of refracted light into a coherent image. The first time they powered it, the room filled with a static hiss and a single trembling projection, a series of frames no longer than 30 seconds. They showed geometry, an angular silhouette descending through cloud, and a map-like pattern of coordinates overlaid on a horizon that was not Siberia. The images were crude and jittered as if seen through rain, but the impression was clear. Something had arrived, and its passage had been encoded into the very sand and resin of the taiga. The reverberator's findings did not sit well in a state that measured dangers in ideological as well as physical terms. Portions of Kulik's logbooks, the original shard and the first projection plates, disappeared from public record. The Soviet press called Tunguska the work of an exploded meteor. Inside the academy, notes spoke of a different possibility, a deliberate experiment, an instrument crash, or, as one cautious memorandum put it, a device whose origin cannot be excluded. For decades, the fragments of the story became footnotes in conspiracy catalogs. In 1958, a classified memo shows that the shard, labeled simply Sample 27T, was transferred from the academy to a closed institute near Moscow. KGB cover sheets stamped routine transfers. The scientist who had operated the reverberator was reassigned and later disappeared from published research. Yet the memory matrices could not be completely buried. During Glasnost, a set of declassified papers surfaced, grainy reproductions of the original projection, telegrams between Leningrad and Moscow, and a photograph of a circular clearing where trees stood charred in radial symmetry. Modern analysis of the 1927 glass, conducted in 2003 by a joint Russian-British team, confirmed the presence of microstructures inconsistent with natural tektites and incompatible with simple lightning. More unsettlingly, the coordinates implied by the original projection point to an unremarkable stretch of Arctic between Arkhangelsk and the White Sea, an area later used during the 1930s for naval experiments. The final lines of Kulik's notebook, published with other papers in 1994, read, "The forest remembers, the glass remembers. Who remembers to listen?" Today, drones mapping the Tunguska footprint capture patterns that no single meteorite lottle explains: vitrified rings, annealed tree trunks arranged like glyphs, and a scatter of metallic beads whose crystal lattices bear machining marks at the nanoscale. Conspiracy forums argue that the glass proves